The opinions expressed in this video are just that, opinions. If you agree with them, great. If you disagree with them, even better. Just know that I won't care one way or the other. As long as you have an opinion, that's all that matters. Furthermore, this video isn't about the gameplay as it is about the message, so you'll be dropped in mid-game. It's a standard capture game anyway, nothing to write home about. Enjoy! Hey everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Battleborn PvP. Today's match is a game on capture on Outback. I'm playing as everybody's favorite lovable penguin destroyer. This is a very special episode as I will be playing advocate for one special little guy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Toby T. Penguin. Toby has one dream in this world and is to be the best darn Battleborn in all of Solus. There's one thing stopping him. The developers. Alright, enough of the formal bullshit. Let's get down to brass tacks, shall we? It's in my opinion that Toby desperately needs a DPS buff. He is by far, one of the weakest tanks in the game. At least that's what he's supposed to be, right? The rogue tank. He gets a bunch of skills that increases shield capacity and gives him damage reduction like a tank should. But nothing that really gives him a damage boost. What he's getting in terms of damage buffs involves being behind his force field. The big problem with hiding behind the force field is Toby is slow, as is the nature of being a tank. But I'll get into that more later. Now, don't get me wrong, my problem isn't with his arc mines, it's the railgun. The railgun is, in my opinion, and that's the key phrase in all of this, just keep that in mind, it's all my opinion. But in my opinion, the railgun is complete garbage. Not quite rolling dumpster fire on wheels level of garbage, mind you, but it's pretty goddamn close. Its projectiles it shoots are too slow to hit moving targets. To get the full damage output, you need to charge it fully, which takes longer than it should. Yeah, I know he gets a skill that reduces the charge time, but it's a tier 7 skill, which is too late into his skill tree to do any good for him. Plus, the mutation for that tier is self-destruct sequence, which deals 500 damage to nearby enemies when Toby dies, so that makes it better almost immediately, because Toby's gonna be dying like a... well, something that dies a lot. This leads me to my next point. Toby is slow. Not in the mental aspect, he built a friggin' robotic mech suit for Christ's sake, but he doesn't move fast. Like, at all. So hiding behind a force field to get the me and my magnets perk damage boost is almost impossible mid-combat. A tank isn't supposed to sit back and shoot people from a distance. They're supposed to be down in the trenches, absorbing a lot of damage and dealing out way more. Toby doesn't do that because, well, Toby can't do that. He pales in comparison to all other tanks on the roster. Let's take a look at some of the other tanks in comparison, shall we? Montana v Toby. The only thing these two have in common is their speed, really. They're both slow movers, but other than that, Montana outclasses Toby in every way imaginable. Toby's railgun doesn't hold a candle to Montana's minigun. Let's be honest, alright? The minigun has one of the fastest fire rates in the game that can be boosted with attack speed gear and can be fired for what feels like eternity. The ability Hailstorm adds a slow effect to the bullets and grants Montana damage reduction for the duration, makes it almost unbeatable. And I said earlier that the arc mine is good, but the lumberjack dash makes up for Montana's lack of speed by ramming his big hulking body into enemies and knocking them up into the air. Yet what does Toby got? Toby gets a double jump. Yay! Cool, I guess. Next, Atticus. While it is almost impossible to compare range classes to melee classes, it's not hard to compare melee classes to Toby. Most of the time, Toby can't run fast enough to get away, so he's forced into face-to-face combat, which, when it's against Atticus, you're gonna have a bad time. Atticus' secondary attack is a charge punch that can be, well, charged for additional damage. His Hadronic Arc skill makes his punches electrocute enemies and apply dot damage. Like, you can't beat that. And his Pounce is godlike. He covers a massive distance and deals almost 300 damage and knockback. All of this and his passive gives him charges per kill, and when maxed, his skills gain additional effects, most of them being damage buffs. Notice how he doesn't need to stand behind or near something for those buffs? Last up is Kelvin, possibly my favorite of them all. Kelvin doesn't get a shield like Toby, probably because he's an Eldritch or because he's a sentient ice monster. Either way, Kelvin doesn't need a shield, because as a passive ability, Permafrost gives him a 55 strength shield every time he uses a skill, which most of his skills are on short cooldowns anyway, and that bonus goes up if he uses a shield increasing gear loadout. As for his attacks, his secondary attack is an effective AoE, damaging almost everybody around him. His Sublimate skill increases his speed and deals damage to enemies while also stunning them for a few seconds. And possibly his best skill, Chomp, deals 91 damage, which is okay, it's not overpowered, but then you factor in that it deals an additional 15% of the target's max health, and if that target dies, he gets a permanent health boost. Like, for the entire game. But the biggest thing for those tanks, they all have passive health regen, and pretty substantial ones at that. I know on his stat sheet that it says his skill level is quote-unquote advanced, but so does Galilea's, and she's one of the easiest characters to play as. Nobody uses Toby, and it's not hard to see why. He's the most borked character in this game, and not the good borked like Ambra or Galilea, which needs to be nerfed almost constantly, but the bad unbalanced type. And yeah, I could run a range set and go with attack speed and skill damage and attack damage, but attack speed doesn't help the railgun, and the arc mine, while being good and getting buffed, is more of the for area denial than actual damage. His stat sheet also calls him territorial, and it's kind of hard to be territorial when you have to sit behind your shield in order to get a damage boost. You really can't take over any territories like that. Yeah, you could say that I'm playing the wrong game type with him, but I shouldn't be restricted to playing certain characters on certain game modes only. I'll play as whoever on whatever. You dig? Yeah. Well, he was pretty good in Incursion due to his ultimate ability taking down sentry shields like a boss. But fuck that game mode. I don't have time to play through a 30-minute clusterfuck of a match that will end up being a draw. Yeah, that happens. More than once. You could also say that I have to change my playstyle to suit the character. Yeah, okay, I could sit back and put my shield up and pick people off from a distance. Like a bitch, I am a man, and Toby is a tank and should be treated as such. He should be able to go into a skirmish and blow people away without distinction. Instead, he has to sit on the sidelines with his hand on his dick, hoping that his slow-ass projectile would hit a moving target before he gets taken out. Now, I'm not saying that I want every character to be the same. That's boring. What I do want is for every character to not be complete ass. I like different. Yeah, of course Galilea and Wrath and Reyna are some of the best characters in the game. But I like playing as Marquis, I like playing as Benedict, and I like playing as Toby. I don't want every character to be the same. I just want to have fun with every character and not have to avoid some characters like they have the plague because they're not as balanced as the rest. And yeah, I'll tip my hat to Gearbox. They're putting out a new hotfix every couple of days, it seems, and they really want to support this game to the fullest extent, and I'm all for that. Great, I'm loving this game. Even though it only has 3 game modes and only 2 maps for each, it's still a blast to play. But I do kind of wish they would open up all the maps to be played on all game modes. But whatever, they're going to be supplying us with countless free updates and free content in the future. Okay, I spent 3.5, almost 4 hours worth of match time as Toby and have come away with 2 decent games. That's where this tirade is coming from. I want Toby to live up to his moniker, the Destroyer. Like, I don't know if he'll ever get a buff. I think the easiest thing to do would be to boost his railgun damage to make up for its charge time, or keep the damage the same but reduce the charge time, but fuck, what do I know? I'm not a developer. I wasn't being facetious, I'm not a developer, so I don't know if it's complicated or not. What do you guys think? Do you think Toby needs a buff, or am I just wearing these rose-tinted goggles? What do you guys think he should get buffed? Do you think he should get buffed? I don't know. But I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. And until next time, goodbye.